legendary moron Sean Hannity decided to weigh in on the prospect of World War III and nuclear catastrophe. And he floated some advice. So Brendan Carrot here says, Sean Hannity proposes NATO fighter jets bomb Russian convoy, quote, and then nobody takes credit for it, so then Putin won't know who hit it. Wow. This is going to be my first time listening to the whole thing. Let's do it.
What we ought to be focused on is energy and the military. Those are the two things that would matter the most. And we ought to be providing the munitions that are needed, the javelins, the Stinger missiles that would be most effective against this Russian army. Now,
by the way, that is what they're doing. We are now arming Ukraine to the teeth. Now, I support arming Ukraine. However, and this is a big however, this is a big but. This is a gigantic, this is a donk ass right here. We need to make sure we don't arm the Azov battalion, who are card-carrying neo-Nazis. And they're officially part of the National Guard of the Ukrainian government. So I would axe them immediately. I'm sure Sean Hannity is not going to inject this nuance into the conversation. He just wants to throw as many weapons as possible at Ukraine with no regard for where the weapons end up, and I'm sure a lot of them will end up with the Azov battalion.
As of this morning, this 40-mile convoy of Russian troops and Russian tanks and munitions and fuel, they're only 18 miles outside of Kyiv. And let me tell you, when I look at that, I'm thinking, uh-oh, this is about to become, it's about to go to the next level. And I pray to God Almighty I'm wrong. And the next level would be a massacre. And the next level would be the toppling of the government of Kyiv. The next level will mean thousands upon thousands and likely tens of thousands of people dead, and that might be on the low side.
That's probably true. What he's saying here is probably true. I've been saying for a long time that, Russian military might way overpowers that of Ukraine, so it really is just a matter of time. If somehow there's like a guerrilla war effort to stave off Russia and it works, that would be a miracle.
That's what I fear the most now. Now, you would think that maybe these European countries would get together and they'd be arming the Ukrainians that show that they're willing to fight. You know, if we can see on satellite imagery where the convoy is, I don't know, maybe some smart country, maybe NATO might take some of their fighter jets, or maybe they can use some drone strikes and take out the whole damn convoy. And then nobody takes credit for it. So then Putin won't know who to hit.
Oh, my God. We've seen this a lot recently, man. A bunch of absolute dolts casually floating World War III. Just a gaggle of peckerheads casually suggesting, why don't we try a little World War III? Sean, if you do the thing that you're suggesting, first of all, nobody's dumb enough to think it's not NATO or the US or some, European country that is in NATO. Of course Putin would know who it is. What's going to happen? Is Botswana going to randomly intervene and bomb on the side of the Ukrainian government? What are you saying? Is Madagascar going to dip their toe into the feud? What are you saying? Everybody's going to know who it is, Sean. Putin's going to know who it is. And then if that happens, that's not like a tiny escalation or like purely a defensive measure. That is an act of World War III. That is, okay, everybody batten down the hatches because the nukes might be in the air in 7 minutes. That's what that is, dude. Millions of people listen to this guy and get their quote-unquote news from him. But again, we've seen a lot of this. You have, President Zelensky's been calling for a Western enforced no-fly zone. That's World War III. You have Adam Kinzinger calling for a no-fly zone. That's World War III. You have some billionaire, Ackerman, who we talked about on the show the other day. He's calling for World War III. You have a Republican senator who's calling for a no-fly zone, which again is World War III. Seemingly the only people who know that this is World War III and it is not doable, Joe Biden, Boris Johnson, Jen Psaki, and like everybody who happens to be in a position of power right now. Because when they have that heightened level of responsibility, they think, I don't even want to roll the dice with a 3% chance of World War III. Never mind like an 80% chance of it, which is what it is if you happen to shoot down the Russian convoy. Unbelievable. Let's see what else he says.
Back. Well, he's threatening nuclear weapons. Hannity, you talk about nuclear war. I'm not talking about nuclear war, nor would I support one American boot on the ground here.
But that is what it is. If you do that attack, he can escalate to nuclear war. At the very least, I mean, we would be lucky in that scenario. So if like NATO or some Western aligned country or the US takes out that convoy, we would be lucky if all that happened in return was like massive cyber attacks against the West that takes out our internet and our infrastructure for an extended period of time. That would be the bare minimum of Vladimir Putin's response. He would much more likely have to target some NATO outlets in response. These idiots don't understand. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Dog, you're playing a chess match. You got to think like 6 moves ahead. He doesn't even think 1 move ahead.
But at what point is this going to end? Because nobody did anything after Georgia was taken in 2008. Nobody cared about Crimea being annexed in 2014. It's interesting how Putin did nothing during those years.
Oh, my God.
And I would argue it's because he feared Trump and he believed Trump would do whatever was necessary.
Imagine believing that. George W. Bush was an absolutely psychotic neocon who invaded like 14 different countries. He's this unintelligent Republican barbarian neocon. And Putin invaded Georgia under George W. Bush. That negates the theory that, he wouldn't do it under Trump, because Trump and George W. Bush are very similar on paper. So that doesn't make any sense. He's done it under Democratic He's done it under Democratic presidents. He's done it under Republican presidents. And my guess is, if Trump was still in there for these 4 years, if he got a second term, he would do it. Putin would do it. But, I would fear, if Trump was in there, I would fear the reaction, because remember when he was getting into a beef with North Korea and casually tweeting about maybe we do nuclear war? If he said that in this back and forth with Putin, that would be even more heightened tensions. That would be terrifying. Because God forbid there's some miscommunication, some fog of war thing, and then we're off to the races, man. I don't know if Trump would be able to withstand this pressure to call for a no-fly zone. I think he'd probably do it. And then, oh my God, we'd all be fleeing for the Bahamas or somewhere where it's relatively more safe. But I don't know if anywhere's safe from nuclear winter. Anyway, Sean Hannity is a massive idiot. You just got a giant dose of it here. I cannot believe millions of people listen to this guy as if he's some sort of truth teller.